The film opens with a brief documentary about Cleopatra and the Roman commander Mark Antony. On their wedding day, he presented her with 3 golden bejeweled eggs as a symbol of his love for her. However, their love story ended tragically when they committed because they could not live without each other. After their passing, the eggs were hidden for centuries and believed to be mere myths, but 2 of the eggs were later unearthed by a farmer, while the 3rd remained hidden in secrecy. In the present day, someone is working on a replica of one of the eggs. The man's name is Nolan, and he is a professional thief. We see him watching this documentary and making a perfect replica of Cleopatra's egg, pouring silver, gold, and stones. The scene shifts to Rome, and we see Special Agent John Hartley join Interpol Inspector Doss at a museum, on the hunt for wanted art thief Nolan Booth, after being given information by a source known only as the Bishop. According to the information, Nolan was about to steal Cleopatra's egg which had been placed in the museum. They speak to the museum director as he leads them to Cleopatra's egg, on display before a crowd of tourists. However, John realizes that something is not right, so he does a thermal reading of the egg, and then pours a kid's can of Coke over it to reveal that the egg on display is a fake, and someone else is in possession of the real one. As Doss orders the place to be locked down, Booth pops out of the crowd and makes a run for it with the real egg. John follows him, but Nolan is faster than him, so he manages to dodge him in the crowd. Then, he is noticed by Doss, and the guards chase him, but he loses them by climbing up some scaffolding and causing it to collapse. He is about to leave when Hartley catches him and points a gun at him, telling him to hand over the egg and surrender. Nolan tries to escape again, but Hartley corners him, with them both falling out of a window, but Booth manages to go down a slide and run into town. He rides off on a motorcycle, but as Hartley tries to chase him in a car, he gets T-boned by a gelato truck, and Booth gets away. Days later, in Bali, Hartley finds Booth in his home. Booth is surprised to find him inside his home, but as the whole police team enters to arrest him, he gets a bigger surprise. Inspector Doss interrogates Nolan, and we come to know that he is wanted in 18 countries, since he is an escaped thief from 6 giant prisons. She tells Booth that this time, she will send him to one of the worst prisons on earth. Then, Hartley starts talking to Booth, and we come to know that Booth actually enjoys stealing things, as it gives him the pleasure of feeling better than everyone else. After this, the team takes Booth away and places the egg in the car. However, the Bishop, the anonymous source who gave the tip about Nolan, is disguised as a police agent, and switches out the egg for a fake one. 48 hours after the arrest, Hartley goes back to Rome, where he is found in a bar by Doss. She shows him the egg that was replaced after shattering it on the floor. Doss also tells him that an $8 million wire transfer was sent to a Swiss bank account in Hartley's name, leading her to believe that he was involved in the egg's robbery. Although he insists he is innocent, and he's been set up, Doss has Hartley arrested. Hartley is sent to a Russian prison, where he finds that coincidentally, Booth is his cellmate. Hartley deduces that he must have been set up by the Bishop. Booth informs him that a challenge was issued, which the Bishop is undoubtedly trying to accomplish. Apparently, whoever is in possession of the 3 eggs must deliver them to an Egyptian billionaire by the eve of his daughter's wedding, for a payment of $300 million. The men know that the 2nd egg is in the possession of an international arms dealer known as Sotto Voce, and he will soon be hosting one of his famous parties, which would offer a great chance to swipe the egg from his highly fortified vault. Moments later, Booth draws attention to them by yelling out to the whole cafeteria that Hartley is not a cop. This prompts a large inmate, Drago Grande, to stand up and challenge Hartley. Although he tells him he doesn't want trouble, Drago knocks Hartley on his ass in front of everyone, before guards bring him and Booth back to their cell. The guys are brought to meet the Bishop face to face, and she turns out to be the undercover agent who swapped out the eggs. She says that she transferred money to an account under Hartley's name, and also that she has been one step ahead of Booth, to become the world's #1 art thief. The Bishop says she knows that Booth knows where the location of the 3rd egg is, and she will let him out of there with a 10% cut if he agrees to join her, but he refuses to tell her anything. Consequently, she orders the guards to put Hartley and Booth in hard labor. While trying to come up with a plan to clear his name, Hartley makes the most of his time to get to know Booth. In their cell, Hartley asks Booth about his father, because he knew that Booth's dad was a Swiss police captain, so he wonders how that man's son would go on to become a criminal. Booth says that his dad was a jerk who cared more about his work than he did his own son. When he believed that Booth lost a beloved watch of his, the man didn't talk to him for a year, until he discovered it was hidden behind some paperwork. The guys hatch and enact an escape plan, when Booth throws a bar of soap into a cleaning solution and throws it into a machine to create an explosion. In the ensuing chaos, the men fight off the guards before making their way to a chopper, using a badge. Booth swiped off a guard when Drago attacked Hartley back in the cafeteria. Booth makes it onto the chopper, while Hartley runs across the bridge as the guards blow it up. As Hartley tries to climb up the bridge, Booth fires the chopper's machine guns at the guards. He starts flying away, until Hartley manages to climb up and jump into the chopper. The guards attempt to fire a missile at them, but Hartley manages to have it fly through the chopper and hit a mountain instead. They then make their getaway. The bishop is keeping an agent captive in his office, until she uses his computer to send a decrypted message to DOS, to inform her that Hartley and Booth are on the loose, as well as an invitation to Sotto Voce's party. The agent trips an alarm, but the responding agent is knocked out by Bishop. She threatens the first agent to tell a lie about what happened, or she will get to his loved ones and reveal his darkest secrets to them. Booth gets help from a contact, Tambwe, to pick him and Hartley up and take them on a plane to Sotto Voce's place in Valencia. Booth comes up with a plan to get into Voce's safe, which only opens with his thumbprint and facial recognition software, which Booth is prepared for, with his own tech. The guys show up at the party, which is luckily a masquerade ball, so they can get by undetected. The bishop is there already, so Hartley dances with her to keep her in plain sight and avoid drawing negative attention. Sotto Voce spots them dancing and decides to cut in, out of jealousy. Booth swipes a glass containing Voce's thumbprint, before he and Hartley make their way to his safe. After some clumsiness, the two stumble upon the safe, but are found by DOS, who points her gun at them, and orders Hartley to arrest Booth, if he really is on the side of the law. Hartley disarms DOS, before he and Booth get inside the safe and lock it. Bishop has somehow already made her way inside, and fights the men for the egg, until Voce comes in. He turns out to be in league with the bishop, and they have Hartley and Booth knocked out and taken captive. The bishop interrogates Hartley with electric cables for the whereabouts of the third egg. When Voce nearly strangles Hartley, Booth relents, and says that the egg is in a pyramid in Cairo. When it looks like Voce and the bishop are about to head off together, he collapses after it turns out she spiked his drink, leaving her to get away alone. Voce awakens a few moments later, but has his vision impaired by the drug. He fires wildly at Hartley and Booth, and they get free from their cuffs. The guys try to escape, but end up in the bullfighting arena outside. Hartley gets knocked around a couple of times, and Voce tries to shoot at them again, but he is knocked out by the bull before the guys flee. The two make it onto a train, where Booth admits he lied about the third egg's location. Hartley nearly throws him off the train when Booth refuses to tell him about the third egg, until he relents and pulls him back in. He then tells Booth about his father, who was a con man that just disappeared from his life when he was 13. Booth then tells Hartley a little history about the third egg. It was recovered by a Nazi art collector named Rudolf Zeig, and after stashing away all the stolen Nazi artifacts, the egg remained hidden. Booth has a map to this, and they both follow it to reach a location in the jungle in Argentina. While searching in the forest, they lose their track and go around in circles. Eventually, Hartley loses his temper and slams the compass on the ground. This leads to the sound of a collision with something hard or metallic under the surface. They find a doorway and decide to go down. When they reach a hidden room downstairs, they begin searching for the egg. Here, Booth finds out that the watch that his father loved so much was actually a key to finding the safe where the egg is kept. However, after they find the egg, the bishop arrives, along with DOS and her team of agents. A shootout ensues, which leads to a chase through the caves in old antique cars that were preserved in the hidden vault. In this situation, the thieves cooperate with each other in order to make it out of the underground vault. The bishop and DOS struggle for the egg during the chase, but Booth manages to get it back. The three ride their car out of the cave and over a waterfall. The police can't jump in the water, so they stop chasing them. Then we see Booth, who grabs the egg and comes out of the water, but he can't find Hartley. Not wanting to let him lose his life, Booth attempts to go into the water to save him, but he turns out to be totally fine, standing behind him. Booth again comes out of the water, and they plan to leave together. Suddenly, they see the bishop, who swims to shore. Booth begins teasing her, thinking that she has lost, but just when it looks like Hartley is about to arrest her, they kiss instead. They then reveal that Hartley was working with the bishop the whole time, as they are a couple, who have been planning the egg heist from the beginning, and used Booth to lead them to the third egg. This comes as a shock to Booth, who always thought that he and Hartley were a team. So, the famous art thief is left startled. Then, they leave him cuffed to a tree before making their getaway. After a couple of days, we see Hartley and the bishop go to Cairo, where the billionaire is hosting his daughter's wedding, presenting her not only with the 3 eggs, but also a special musical performance from Ed Sheeran. But the party is crashed when Doss and her agents get there and arrest the billionaire for stealing the eggs. Meanwhile, Hartley and the bishop get away quietly, with their payment already secured. 6 months pass after the incident, and the couple is on a boat when they are found by Booth. He informs them that he tipped off Doss about the couple's scheme, and she has their whole $300 million steal frozen in their accounts. Booth offers them a chance to team up with him on another even bigger score, or he will leave them to be arrested. At first, Hartley refuses to help him, but when the bishop tries to convince him to team up with him, he reluctantly agrees. After some time, Doss and her agents arrive, but it appears she is too late and finds neither of them. Then, tired of chasing them around and taking anonymous tips, she goes back to her office and issues a red notice on all 3 criminals. The movie ends with a shot of all 3 thieves making their way to the Louvre, the legendary art museum in Paris that's home to works like the Mona Lisa and the Venus de Milo statue, which is presumably the site of their next job. The film never clarifies exactly what they plan to steal within the famed art museum, but we are led to assume it's another well-guarded historical artifact.